Good afternoon. Okay, I think people are still not come back from lunch. Good afternoon. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about how we have measured typical usage and attitude study, how we have done work around understanding consumption behavior. Now, this is typically every single consumer company does this kind of work. And what we have done differently is this is some work which I'm going to share is work done in Singapore. And then I'm also going to talk about how we are trying to replicate similar work in Bangladesh, which is an entirely opposite end of the spectrum in terms of mobile penetration. So I'm going to start with some interesting facts and probably going to give you this is in line with what Jasmeet talked about in morning, where more smartphones are being shipped compared to babies who are born in India right now. And in line with the thinking, if you look at it, the 7.2 billion people on Earth, if you look at the mobile sort of subscribers, when you talk about number of mobile connections which are out there, you're talking about roughly 7 billion connections. So huge number of mobile connections which are there. Now, if you talk it about in terms of there are a lot of people who have multiple 2, 3 phones and connections. If you talk about just the unique mobile phone numbers, you're talking about 4.6 billion connections. So it's a huge number. Now, when you look at it in when you look at data in this way, what you realize is when we talk about representation, it's not so bad. Now, some countries obviously will have more representation, some countries will have less representation. If we go from there and look at, we live in an era of information overload. All of us have amount of information we used to consume earlier versus what we consume today. There is a huge amount of difference there. And what we realize is that there's so much data and information out there. It's taxing. Now, what's the biggest implication for that? Especially for people who are in research business where a lot of information is what we capture is recall based. The biggest implication is people may not remember. They may not have the mind space to remember every single thing which we are asking them to remember. So let's look at a typical usage and attitude study and what kind of questions we ask there. If you look at a typical usage and attitude study, you're asking people about when did you consume the brand, when did you drink the category or consume the category, who were you with, what were you doing, why did you do it, what size did you consume, what brand, what pack, what SKU. So you're asking information which is kind of important for you, may not be the most important information for the consumer. And this is information which is kind of pretty detailed. And all of us in the packaged foods industry or packaged goods industry, we ask it in some form or fashion. It might be a little different from the way I'm asking, but it is information which you need in a UNA study. So a typical UNA study, when I started my research career, some of the studies were as long as 4 hours. So you needed 4 hours of questioning to get the information. And you broke it down into 2 hours each. That's the way you got the information. Now, biggest challenge with this is it's all recall based. It is all based on what do you remember, because most of the time I cannot see what you're doing with the product or category or the brand, and therefore I just don't have real data. Now, based on the lot of work, scientific work which is done on how humans capture information, how much they remember, between 50 to 80% of what I'm going to tell you today is something which you're going to forget tomorrow. If that is one reality, then I'm asking a question on when did you consume your last Coke? What's the chance that you're going to get it right and tell me that you consumed it 6 weeks back? Where did you consume? Why did you consume? Who were you with when you consumed it? Next to impossible. The guy is just not going to get it right. So how do we solve this? And this is something which we were struggling with. And again, this was not the only thing we were struggling with when we started this research. We believed that our consumer, when we were going to the consumer, just didn't have the time to really go through a very long questionnaire and give us a fair sense of what's happening. We did collect data that way in past, and therefore we wanted to just compare and see how does it look. So we said we'll go closer to moment of truth. We really want to understand when he's consuming or doing something, can he tell me in real time what's happening there? This is the best place to do that. Smartphone penetration of around 80%, everyone has got a phone. So therefore, if we can do it here, if there is any market which can pull it off, Singapore is the market which can pull it off. So we did that work here. So what we did was, it's very simplistic what we did. We basically created an app. We recruited consumers, gave them that app, trained them on how to use the app. And what we really wanted them to do was take a picture of the drink they were having and answer some very quick questions which took less than a minute. And when we ask in a traditional research, when we do that, it's a recall based, and the way you do that is you are asking in one go, you're asking all the questions about your last 24 hours or your last 7 days or whatever you're asking. Here, we broke it down to every time you consume something, can you please take a picture and note down answer these 5 questions very quickly for us. Now, so we created an app. We worked with Brandscapes. Pranesh was here earlier, so he can talk more about app if you're interested in knowing that. But it was again a very simple app which had 6-7 screens and very intuitive. End of the research, what we got was a very rich pictorial data capture, which was basically all the pictures of what consumers are consuming. And some of the stuff which we couldn't imagine, because look at it. This data, I can look at this data and figure out, is he consuming it with ice, without ice? Is he consuming it with straw, without straw? Earlier in a typical research, you will ask those kind of questions. Here, he is taking a picture, and if I can analyze the picture, if I have ability to analyze that picture, I can get all that done. Now, this is something which was really surprising. We have done this kind of work in past, and what you do is, when you ask consumers, what did you consume, when did you consume, how much you consumed, and you try and correlate it back with the industry data, saying there are 10 million cases of Coke sold. I want to figure out how much of it comes out when I do this kind of research. Typically, those 2 data points will never marry. You will have to really work hard to figure out if there is any correlation between those 2 data points. You'll have to correct the data. But interestingly, when we did that, we found 90% accuracy in the data, which is what we captured versus what we really knew. There's a very close correlation between those 2 data points. What were big learnings for us? This was the biggest learning for us, because when we went into this research, asking someone to note down 5 or 6 times in a day when he's consuming something and taking a picture of that and answering 4 or 5 questions, we were not sure whether we are going to get someone to, because it was more of an experiment which we were running, and we wanted to understand if people were willing to do that. We were worried that we'll see a huge amount of dropout, that consumers, when they do this, they'll say, sorry, I don't want to capture details. But what we really found was there's only less than 5% dropout rate on this. So people are happy answering when you ask them in small bite size, quick information, capture it for me, and I get the data. The few interesting things which we could do was, since we were doing it over a sort of a 3 to 5 day period, we could do this, which is we could incentivize them in a staggered manner. So we could say, if you completed first day, good, I'll give you X. If you completed Y, second day, you get X plus something. And if you go to day 3, I can do X plus Y plus Z. When you did that, you still had data of day 1 or day 2, which was, so if someone dropped out even on day 1, I could use this data. But if someone stayed for 3 days, even better, I could see a trend in his data. I could see how the behavior changes on a weekday versus weekend, which I can't do in a traditional research, because nobody will sort of like give me data accurately over a weekday or weekend. I have to match the panel. Here, I could see same guy, how his behavior changes on a weekday and a weekend. You could constantly monitor data, because when you're doing something like this, you don't know what the data is finally going to look like. How many people will we find who consume a Coke and therefore, or consume a Sprite, and therefore be able to later on analyze the data. So you're always dependent on tabulating data at end of every day or end of 5 days or week to really understand what sample size you're going to get. Here, I could constantly monitor data and look at it in real time and saying, does it make sense or doesn't make sense? If I move to the next point, which is what I made earlier as well, which is data quality. Now, we have not seen this kind of data quality in similar work. Whenever we have done a UNA, UNA is good from a UNA perspective, giving you usage and attitude, understanding of the category or the brand you're talking about. But the fit between the volumes you get from the consumer and the volume which is there in the market, you just don't find that fit. So this gives you a sort of a bit more confidence in the data and saying, I'm onto something which is far more accurate versus what we had. And the last point, it was much faster than what we typically do in a UNA, because you do a typical UNA, you basically leave it out for next 2 months. It's going to take at least 2 months for you to get the data. What this allowed us was, one, you get the quicker data back to you, and from a cost perspective, it's a lot cheaper than going into a typical UNA. Now, I do have my limitations of, I just cannot capture the kind of detail I can capture in a traditional UNA study, which can be sort of like run into 4 hours of interviewing and 100 pages of questionnaires. But what I'm getting is fairly accurate, and I can always supplement it with more information at the start or end of the interview, where I capture more information and marry the data. Now, how is future going to look like on this one? This is something which is, I intentionally didn't put more points here, and I just wanted to talk through this. The couple of things which we are doing, and one market which we believe where we can pull this off is Bangladesh, because we are trying to do similar work in Bangladesh, similar challenges. It's a market which is, we wanted to capture information. Its mobile penetration, especially in cities in Bangladesh, if you talk about, is pretty decent. They may not be smartphones, but they've got feature phones. So the challenge to us was, can we pull off something like this in a developing market? And that's something which we kind of like on a pretty progressive, on kind of final stages of progress, and we will be doing that in near future. Second piece where we have used similar stuff, which is closer to where you talk shopper, where what we have done is we use mobile technology to go into an outlet. So a consumer goes in an outlet, takes a picture of the outlet and sees whatever is there. There is a Coca-Cola cooler, or there is some kind of point of sale material, or there is some kind of activation in the outlet. He takes a picture of that, and he takes a picture of what he consumed. And that's it. And then later on, when you try and correlate that data, which is, I think in morning someone touched briefly about that, on that when talking about activation, correlation between activation and choice of brands or on the product you made. When we looked at that data, it was really the most interesting piece of data we have looked on shopper in recent history, because it basically tells you what you're doing in the outlet and how does it manifest with the final moment of truth and the decision consumer makes about the brand or the category or the flavor or the product he picks up. And it's also really real-time data which you can act upon, because if you capture the data on an ongoing basis, which is because we ran a pilot first and then looking to ways to scale it up. Because if you scale it up, it has usability for the market, because it's a real-time information about an outlet where I can impact that outlet by doing something in that outlet. If something is working in outlet A and I pick it up and say, okay, this is working, I can replicate same thing in outlet B. Or if something is not working, I can pick it up and kind of make some changes there. So that's all I have as far as my presentation is concerned. Any questions?
Thank you, Maharaj. I think that was really interesting hearing from you how you've moved traditional 4 hours UNA. That's a plaguing problem that we guys have. To bite-sized surveys out here. You did this with applications, as you said.
That's correct.
Why applications? Because we keep talking about the complexity involved with different types of platforms, Android, iPhone. Why not just go with mobile web, and why application?
Sure. So when we did this for Singapore, we did use application. When we are doing in Bangladesh, we are actually using SMS, because obviously penetration of smartphones in a Bangladesh market is a lot less compared to what we have here. And we are not even going to a web-based technology. What we are going to is basically simple SMSs which allow you to feed in data.
I'm very interested in this case coming from a food manufacturing background, and UNAs are often one of the longest survey instruments that we create. I'm curious as to your experience on how you took your organization through the challenge of going from standard approach to this, because at some point I'm guessing you had to cut down the amount of information you were collecting, so there must have been some internal challenge to doing that. And then just challenge overall in the process of changing the way you collect this information. Because this method and this approach UNA data has been around in Coca-Cola, in Kraft, in these big CPG companies since the beginning of time.
What it does allow you is the usage part of the information, which typically companies like really, that's the information which is really used very intensively. At least at Coca-Cola, I believe that information is used really intensively. And the attitude part you're collecting anyways through multiple sort of sources. You're doing your qual researches, you're doing your ethnographies, and you're doing all the other work which supplements that information as well. But the usage bit is something which sort of this methodology gives you much richer understanding of your usage bit compared to what a traditional methodology gives you. How did we convince the organization? Interesting. Two ways to really go about convincing. One is we ran it as a pilot, so we had to do less convincing in terms of saying, guys, we are running a pilot and allow us to experiment here. When we went back, when you ask a general manager saying, we want to do a UNA study, they'll say, okay, fantastic, do a UNA study. Here is the money. When do I see the information back? And you tell him that it's going to take 6 months. 6 months is a long period in our life, and in a fast-moving consumer category, 6 months is sort of like, you can move to different advertising, different platform, some NPD would have happened, some people would have come into the market. So when you go back and say, I'm going to come back in 4 weeks and tell you what's happening here, and there's something which is repeatable, I can repeat this in a year's time if you need it to be repeated again. The UNA doesn't get repeated for 4 years. People just don't have money to repeat a UNA. So that's the way I sold it within my organization.
Change the way you approach other aspects of market research and other projects you might run, and if so, how?
We are taking baby steps. The way we, at Coca-Cola, the way we look at our innovation is, it's a 70-30, 70-20-10 kind of approach. 70 is going to be traditional. 20 is going to be something which is slightly more risky and you're doing something which is different. But 10 is going to be really, you throw the money at something which is kind of like high risk. You don't know whether it's going to work or not. You're sort of experimenting there completely. This was initially part of 10, which was, I'm risking something, I'm putting this money, I don't know whether it's going to generate same returns or not. It's now kind of more of a going closer to 70 because I now understand this works. So I can kind of keep it as part of my regular work which I do. But rest of the work, again, a lot of work is still very traditional in the way we do it. I think these are baby steps. You can't change an organization to straight away move from a hardcore sort of doing work in a traditional manner to a new age technology or new platforms. But I think markets which are either a small market where budgets are small and therefore there's less to risk, or markets which don't capture this information at all. Because when you talk about a 4-hour UNA, how many markets can afford it? You will always have smaller countries which just can't afford that and therefore just not doing any research in that area. When you go to them and say, here is a cheaper solution, it may not be the sort of Rolls Royce of the solution, but it gives you fairly good information which is what you need. That's the way to sell it.